Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Fish Natural Seminar Series. Tonight we're going to be talking about fly fishing, thus the title, Fall into Fly Fishing. I apologize for the slight tardiness. We've had a little bit of technical issue we've been working through, but we think we have it figured out. To begin with, we're going to talk a little bit about fly fishing. Like I said, we're going to discuss equipment, we're going to discuss safety, we're going to discuss location of the fish, and flies to be used while fishing for various species of fish around the state. And that's where I think I want to begin. I want to begin by stating, whenever you think of fly fishing, don't think of solely trout. Trout's not the only species to be caught with a fly rod. Any of our warm water species here in the state of Arkansas can be caught on trout, on fly rod as well. Saltwater fly fishing has become a big thing here lately. I've seen videos of them out bone fishing for trout, or for bone fishing with a fly rod there in the Gulf and alongside the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. So when you go to think about fly fishing, don't think about just trout. Now, the video we're going to show a little bit later is in trout waters. It's going to be on one of our local trout waters here in the state, Little Red River. World-class place to catch trout. And we'll talk, during that video, we'll have a little bit of instruction as well. When it comes to purchasing equipment for fly fishing, let your pocketbook guide you and your comfort guide you. Fly fishing is one of those hobbies, ladies and gentlemen, that can be as expensive as you want it or as cheap as you want it. It's just the way it goes. You can buy a starter set, rod, reel, already rigged up with all the different lines for close to $25 in some spots. On the upper end of it, you're talking about $3,000 to $4,000. So let your pocketbook guide you, and you're comfortable with how much you're going to spend on it, guide you. Keep in mind, you will get what you pay for on a lot of these. My personal rig that I like to use is a Fenwick rod with a Fluker Medalist reel. And that one there will run you about $300 to $400 buying it out. All right. There is a lot more of equipment. I was just reminded I didn't introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm James Davidson with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Aquatic Resources Education Program and the Fishing in the Natural State Program. For those of you, if this is the first time joining as well, we've been doing these on the third Tuesday of every month, these little seminars like this online, bringing you a virtual platform to where you can still learn about different methods of fishing and different things around the state. Be done. Now back to the equipment. There are going to be a few things you're going to need along with your fly rod, a properly set up fly rod. Things like possibly a set of waders if you're looking to wade fish. Myself, I enjoy doing it during the summer in nothing more than shorts, a pair of wading sandals, and a t-shirt. Enjoy the cool weather, the cool water while the sun's beating down. The way I like to explain it over the years to different people, I can stand inside the river where it's got natural air conditioning and not sweat and feel chill whenever a buddy might be fishing for bluegill or catfish up on the lake up above and having to use a sweat rag. That's one of the benefits of it. Another benefit of it is you get out there right there with them. Now, if you choose to use waders, there are several different types of waders you can use, and we'll discuss a little bit inside the video as well that's coming up here shortly. And then the waders you're going to be looking at are either going to be boot foot or stocking foot waders, as well as whether they're neoprene or they're breathable or they're vinyl or they're, just a whole different assortment of waders in there. Now, the ones that I prefer to use whenever I'm wade fishing here in the state, inside these cool water streams, there won't be a stocking foot with a separate wading boot, and that wading boot is going to have a felt sole. And the reason why I like the felt sole is on the rocks, it's covered with moss, cool water, and slime. It's going to help prevent you from sliding as much. You're still going to slide. You're still going to have shaky footing from time to time, but it'll help you prevent some of that. And it'll help make it a safer walk out in there. Another one we'll discuss a little bit inside the video is going to be a wading staff, a third leg, if you will, a little extra support to get out there, as well as it operates as another safety device. It allows you to be able to determine how deep that water is that you're fixing to step in. The clear water can be deceptive. You might be able to see the bottom, but it's further down than you think at times. Dip nets for gathering up your fish. Ladies and gentlemen, a log trout fisherman or catch and release fisherman. If you're going to catch and release, use a soft-sided dip net to handle your fish. That way you don't damage it. Trout are fragile. They have real small scales to them. And without that soft-sided net and wetting your hands before you do any actual handling of them, you can wind up knocking off their slime coat as well, which will do damage to them. That slime coat's there to help prevent bacteria, virus, parasites from attaching so easily to them. That soft-sided net will help and aid in that. Don't use a fishing towel to handle your fish. That fishing towel will knock off the slime coat and stress the fish even more. Other equipment you're going to look at, a small, inexpensive way to carry your baits out. Like a little tackle bag like this right here that you can hang around your neck or strap around your chest. It'll fold out. The little tabletop that'll hold the flies in it. Something of that nature comes in pretty handy. And you can buy us all this stuff relatively inexpensive going online, Amazon.com, or visit some of our local fly shops and talk to them. A pair of hemostats where you can sit there and take the hook out of that fish's mouth without running your finger up in there. Keep in mind, something like that to hold on to those hooks is going to be handy anyway, for the simple fact the hooks you're going to use whenever you're messing with these flies are going to be small hooks. And I say small hooks, about the smallest I've used is a number 24. And those of you who know what I mean when I talk about the numbers on the hooks will understand. Those of you who don't, the hook on that little gumball bait right there is probably about a number 16 hook. It's real small. The bigger the number on the hook, the smaller the hook. For instance, a 24 will be tiny, and number 1 will be large enough to be used for bass, catfish, and so forth. You're going to be looking at different types of flies you want to use. When it comes into the flies that you're going to be using, a lot of it's personal preference, much like bass lures. But my suggestion is to look and see what insect is hatched recently when you get close to the water's edge. Get up there at the edge of the water, roll over a rock and see what exoskeletons and all you can find from macroinvertebrates. And pick a fly to match some of those things, those empty holes that you see. The bigger flies, the streamers and such, they're going to mimic things like leeches, they're going to mimic crawfish, they're going to mimic bait fish. See what other types of fish or crustaceans, the macroinvertebrates you see inside the water that they may be feeding on and wind up using that. There are some manufactured flies you can go out and purchase at Walmart, Academy Sports and such like that, or you can get fly packs pre-made up. Places like Amazon.com. You can sit there and start enjoying a little bit more into fly fishing and start tying your own flies, putting your own personal touches on them. Keep in mind, if you're purchasing your flies, somebody else has tied them, their time is valuable as well. Smaller baits. Arkansas product right here, the mini trout magnet, is designed to use on the fly rod. It's just it's a micro jig designed for using in fly fishing. So those are some of the flies that you'll be looking at. Other products you're going to be needing, they're going to be tapered leader line. You'll buy them in packs like this right here, or you can manufacture your own straight leader. These are tapered leaders that are set up with a particular knot at the end, a loop knot at the end, one end, and on the tapered smaller end is where you can tie your flower, your tippet line. Yes, it requires several different types of lines, several different types of knots. These tapered leaders, like the one I'm holding in my hand, it's a 9-foot leader. It means the leader line inside it's going to be 9 foot in length. It's called a 5X, which is rated at about 6 pounds for that. Now, some of these others over here, there's a 9-foot 2X that's 7.7 pounds, and a 1X that's rated for 9 pounds. 9-pound tapered leader would be something you'd use more like for bass fishing or catching some of your catfish. Tippet line. You have monofilament and fluorocarbon as the two main types of tippet line you can purchase. This 5X tippet material I have right here in my hand is rated at 4.5 pound test. You can get on a small spool like this. That way, if your tapered leader wears away, you can use it to extend the life of that leader line. And you can buy them in different sizes, different brands, looking for the different prices as you go along through there. A lot of people who are switching into fly fishing are used to the cork and bobber type fishing while they're out there brim fishing or crappie fishing. They make strike indicators that you can purchase as well. Anywhere from a pad where you can tear off sections to use, the small cup you can keep in your pocket with a little bit of yarn inside it to use for a strike indicator. That strike indicator is what the secondary job is for a bobber as you're fishing for those type of other warm-water species of fish. It goes down, you set the hook. Now then, we've discussed a little bit about what I've got out here on the table. Let's go into a little bit deeper on the fly reel itself. Setting up your fly reel, for those of you who have never done it before, can be intimidating. Inside that fly reel, you're going to have actually 2 different types of line. One of those types of line is going to be a fly line backing. It's a small braided line, smaller diameter braided line that's usually rated for a pretty good a test rating that will go onto your arbor first. And it'll also help take up room inside your reel. That way your fly line's not so compacted and pulled up so tight. You tie on from the fly line backing to the fly line with things, knots like a nail knot or a blood knot. You connect that fly line to it, and then as you go, you'll reel in your fly line in. At the end of your fly line is where your leader line ties on. That tapered leader then is what your fly tie on to. A lot of times you can go to places like Bass Pro or some of these fly shops around Arkansas. Ozark Angler's real good about it as well. And they'll spool your reel for you if you purchase a fly rod and reel that does not have it pre-spooled. Matching it up. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're fishing with a spin cast rod and reel or a bait cast rod and reel, a lot of times with a string rod and reel, you're going to match up your rod to your reel. When it comes to fly fishing, you're actually matching your fly line to your rod and reel as well. These things come considered weights. The rod I'm holding is a 5-weight rod with a medium fast action. What I'll be looking for is to put a 5-weight line on this reel for this rod. Why? If I put a 6-weight or 7-weight on there, I'm not going to cast the distance. It's going to be too big and it's not going to work properly. It's not going to let the rod load properly. If I put too small on there, it's not going to let the rod load at all. So I'm still going to have malfunctions when casting. So you're going to match your line to your rod. pretty much on that. Now then, the types of lines, don't get carried away. There are several different types of fly lines out there. You've got weight forward, you got double tapered, and you've got straight lines. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just starting out, going to start out learning how to fly cast, I suggest to get a weight forward. It'll help you project it out. Now we're going to get a little bit into the casting. The casting of the rod and reel is more physics than it is energy itself. You're going to take a motion and allow that line to cast. It's not like fishing with a spinning rod or a bait cast rod. You're not allowing the weight of the bait, the hook, the sink, or the bobber to project it out over the water. It's going to be the motions you take this rod through, and it's going to cause you to cast the line out over the water. Simple motion, simple description. Thumb across the back of the rod. Wrist straight and stiff. Elbow down along your side. Don't bend at the shoulder. Bend at your elbow. And instead of coming to the analog clock positions of 10 and 2 like you would with a bait cast or spinning or spin cast rod and reel, you're going to shorten that up to 11 and 1. Those are the 2 positions. Basically what you'll do is you'll bring that rod up till your arm stops automatically by itself, keeping that wrist straight. With your hand out about 3 foot in front of you, 2 foot in front of you, you come down to where you can strike your hand. That's about your stopping position. That rod would stop approximately about 1. Those positions right there on it will help cast out that line. Now, I know I'm going through a lot of this quick. It'll be gone over again in the video here in a little bit, as well as we'll have a question and answer section later on. Now then, let's talk a little bit about where to find these fish. Fish are the same all throughout the state. You find where they like to live. You find that piece of cover they like to hang out around. If I'm going to be out crappie fishing with my fly rod, I'm going to be looking for brush tops to cast over towards. If I'm going to be looking to catch bass, I'm going to be looking for rocky points and a fly that'll get a little bit deeper, and I'm going to use a stripping action. That stripping action is where you're taking your hand, your offhand, it's not holding the rod, reaching up to about the bottom line guide, grabbing the line and pulling it back through the line guides. Use that stripping action to mimic the movement of your bait, fish that you're looking to mimic. I'm going to be looking for trout down below riffles, inside deeper pools. They'll be casting up into that riffle and flow down. A little bit low on that bottom of the deeper pool, waiting to come up for it. I'm going to be looking for large rocks that they may be hiding behind, logs, stumps out in the river, so forth. Habitat's habitat, and they require habitat, the certain structure inside their habitat, in order to feel safe, and that's where they're going to be hanging out. Clear sky days, when you can see the fish can see you. Keep a low profile. Cast up above them, let it drift down over them. Change up your retrieve a little bit. Change up the stripping on it a little bit. Mimic an injured fish or an injured insect. A drowning terrestrial insect of some sort. Now then, those are all the places that you can catch them. Don't have to rely upon cold water for fly fishing, like I said. Warm water species will get it as well. Does it have to be a creek or a river? That's a question that was posed to me. No, it does not have to be a creek or a river. I have fly fished in ponds. I have fly fished in lakes. I have fly fished in reservoirs. The people fly fish in the ocean. Anywhere there's a body of water. Ladies and gentlemen, get into it just as deep as I do, and you'll fly fish your bathtub. Enjoy yourself. Get out there and find new places to take your fly rod and cast, which is another incidental thing that I like to do. This rod right here will break down into 4 segments and fits nicely up underneath the seat of the truck or a car. Let's see. How do I choose my flies? We've covered it. Other equipment, needed. We've covered most of that. I think what we'll do right now is we'll go on into the video, and we'll come back and discuss more about fly fishing after the video. I'm gonna share computer audio too.
Okay. Desktop.
While Tara's looking, if you have any questions you want to start up with, put it inside your chat box. That will, when it comes question and answer time, she'll be able to relay the questions to me. I'll get them answered as much as I can.
How do you share the computer audio?
What?
How do you share computer audio?
Down at the bottom.
That's what I thought. It never came up. It never came up.
Whenever you hit share screen right up here then.
Yeah, it usually comes up and it didn't.
What does that say?
Stop.
I can't see what's going on.
Come over here. Share computer sound.
You found it?
I hope so.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Davidson. I'm with Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Aquatic Resources Education and Fishing in the Natural State Program. Today we're going to be talking about fly fishing. We're out here on the Little Red River at Libby Shoals, and as we're fishing along through here, we're going to talk a little bit about equipment selection, as mechanics to how to use that equipment. We're going to talk about fish location, where to find the fish in the water, and bait selection to find what you're going to fish with that day. I hope everybody has fun. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about waders and some of the safety features that come along with it, with the waders themselves. The style of waders right now that Miss Tara is wearing is called a stocking foot wader. These waders here are pretty versatile. They're lightweight. They're a breathable wader. They have a neoprene sock attached to the wader itself, where you can purchase wading boots to utilize in various types of situations. Other styles of waders that you can purchase are going to wind up including the boot foot waders that you can buy that will normally have a cleat on the bottom of the boots They help in muddy situations such as ponds, slow flowing rivers, miles and stuff like that. Yeah, these boots that Miss Tara's wearing on this, with this set of waders, is a felt sole wading boot. That felt sole helps grip onto the mossy and slick rocks beside some of these cold water streams. They do not guarantee that you will not slip, but they do help prevent it. As you can see, the wader folds down over the boot to help slow some of the water getting inside it, keeping everything tight, preventing the boot also from becoming untied so easily. One of the safety features that comes with these waders that a lot of people do not wear that should is a wading belt. That wading belt should be cinched fairly tight around the girth, not so tight that prevents you from breathing, but it should be tight enough to slow the flow of water back down into the wader should you fall. Other safety issues with it, or safety features with it, whenever you're purchasing a set of waders, make sure you add about 4 to 5 inches, according to most manufacturers, to the inseam measurement of your waders. And then that's from the crotch down to the floor without shoes on. That way you can freely pick up your legs and move around a little bit easier inside the water with that. Make sure your straps are always good and secure when you go in. Some issues I've heard with different various waders, they'll have a chest pocket, and that chest pocket sometimes, if it's a pass-through, will fill up with water if you get a little too deep, and will weight it down. Should you fall, that chest pocket can fill up. Not only will it fill up, but your waders will fill up as well. If your waders go to fill, that wading belt's supposed to help slow the flow of water down to the bottom. Getting up, once you do fall, is not going to be a pretty sight. What you recommended you do is you get your bottom, your rear end up first, let some of that water flow out, and then stand on up. If the water's so deep that you cannot do so without putting your head underneath water, you need to work your way up to a little bit shallower water to where you can get up that way. The wading staff will work as a third leg. It'll help provide that little bit of stability. And not only that, but you can also use that wading staff to help determine how deep the water is in front of you. As you're wading out through some of these cold water streams, the water's going to be clear and it's going to be deceptive as to how deep it is. You can take that wading staff, put it up along front of you, mark it about where the bottom of your wading belt is with a piece of tape or a magic marker, and as you're wading out, seeing how close that depth is to the bottom of your wading belt. Perfection loop. I'm going to give myself enough room right here. I'm going to bring my thumb and forefinger from each hand together. You see how that line loops across each other like that? Mm-hmm. You can pinch it then in that one hand and pull that loop down to about the size I want it. I'm going to run a second loop back behind it, just like this right here, and get it down to the size I want it. Then I'm going to take my tag in. I'm going to lay it between the two loops. I'm going to reach through the front loop, grab the back loop, and pull it through and tight, just like so. When it's tied properly, you see how that tag end sticks straight out, and this knot doesn't slip. That's called a perfection loop. Okay? Mm-hmm. Trim off that tag end. Go over here to the pocket. Pull out the leader line. This tapered leader in this one's going to be kind of fragile because it's a 9-foot 5X. It's rated for 4.4 pounds pressure test. And this one's not already pre-tied, so we'll have to tie it as well. But what we got to do first is do the unraveling. Tapered leader, you can do the same thing as that knot I just tied. like it. And we're looking for it to come together. Against each other like this. And then way if too much of this leader line breaks off and we're ready to change it out, all we gotta do is push them apart, grab the leader line and pull it. Okay? Just like it. Now you got a leader line on, go tie you on a fly. Fly line is feeding from underneath your reel. Pull out enough where you don't have a lot of tension when you go to feed it up. Come back up your line, double it over, and start feeding it up through the line guides like that. It makes it easier than trying to see that tapered leader. And the way these line guides are designed on these fly rods, it helps you get it up through a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. And then once you get it all the way through the end, it prevents it from falling all the way back through on you. So easy. Three of the common groups of flies are as follows. Dry flies. These flies are designed to sit on top of the water, and they usually imitate adult or emerging insects like mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, grasshoppers, and damselflies. Nymphs. They will imitate larvae of aquatic insects at different stages that are commonly found in streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. Streamers. These are bigger flies that you will fish with an active retrieve. They imitate baitfish, crayfish, leeches, and large aquatic insects like hellgrammites. Then there are the two Arkansas fly fishermen staples, the sow bug. The aquatic sow bugs are actually water lice and water slaters, but somewhat resembles the terrestrial roly-poly. The woolly bugger. These are streamers that mimic baitfish, leeches, drowning terrestrial insects, and crayfish. Pretty good. When ready to start casting, pull some line from the reel. Make sure the line from the tip of the rod to the fly is relatively straight. Bending at the elbow and keeping your wrist stiff, pick up the tip of the rod. Starting slow and accelerating, bring your rod to an abrupt stop. Watch the end of your rod to assist with your timing. You'll see the upper section of the rod start to flex and the line start to lay out behind you. As the loop nears its end, cast forward. Once again, watch the tip of your rod and the line. As the loop reaches its end, the line is straightened and the fly begins to fall. Keep your rod tip up and allow the fly to hit the water before the fly line. While some say casting 45 degrees upstream and allowing it to drift to 45 degrees downstream, I will generally use a 30-degree casting area. This allows for more control of the fly's drift and keeps me out of the way of other fishermen. Don't worry about the long cast just yet. Most of the fish that are successfully hooked are caught within 15 to 40 feet. Once you have laid out your fly, grab the fly line between the reel and the bottom line guide and pull just enough line to straighten the line on the water. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a beginner, you will experience wind knots. A wind knot occurs when your loop is closed and the top of the loop comes into contact with the bottom of the loop. They will entangle and form a wind knot. A well-formed loop will be uniform, top line parallel with the bottom line, and approximately 2 to 3 feet apart. When fishing flowing water, the current will pull at the fly and fly line differently. Most often, the fly line will meet the greatest resistance and create a belly or bow in the fly line that points downstream. This will cause the fly to drift too fast. To prevent this, it may be necessary to mend your line. To mend your line, you simply need to make sure that your line is relatively tight with the tip of the rod aimed at the belly in your line. Lift slightly on your rod tip and roll your wrist to flip the line in the other direction. Careful, if you over mend, there's too great of a belly upstream, it will cause your fly to drift slow and start moving toward you and or the shoreline. You're looking for the fly to travel at the speed of the current, not race it or resist it. This is referred to as a dead drift. Always be alert of your surroundings before starting your cast. You never know what might show up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to discuss now a little bit is the knots that needs to be tied. Like I said, there's several knots used while fly fishing, and setting up your fly rod. You can find these knots in an illustration on how to tie them at animatedknots.com. And the first one we're going to talk about is the arbor knot. The arbor knot is what usually you tie your line, your backing line, to the arbor of your reel with. It's basically a slip knot set up with a granny knot at the end. We have an animated spot coming up where you can see it. The second knot, we'll go ahead and go on. The second knot you can use is a nail knot. The nail knot is a knot to join two pieces of line together. You can use it to tie your backing line into your fly line with. And basically what all it is it's like setting up a nail or a straw up against your fly line, using your backing line, bring up enough slack around it, roll around it with the line, nail knot, roll your line around it, come back up through the straw or alongside the nail, thus the name nail knot, pull the tag back up through there, slide the nail out or the straw out, tightening your braided line, your fly line backing, and it will pinch into the fly line itself and help join them together. You trim off the tag ends and it'll keep it from hanging up when going through the line guides. Third knot that's used quite often, you can also find on animatedknots.com, is the blood knot. The blood knot, instead of one line wrapping around the other, they wrap around each other in different directions and pull against each other as a knot. And those are also ones that can be used when attaching your fly line backing to your fly line itself. Fourth knot, perfection loop. That's the one you saw me in the video tie on the end of the fly line and the tapered leader. It allows for a quick connect and disconnect whenever you're out there fishing. You can take your leaders, if they're not already pre-tied with a loop, secure loop on it, you can tie that on before you put them inside your fly bag and have them ready to go where changing them out is relatively rapid. And that was the perfection loop. The final knot we're gonna talk about is what you're gonna use to tie the fly on to the tapered leader or the tip. And that the knot I prefer to use on that is the improved clinch knot. The improved clinch knot is simply putting the end of your line through the eye of the hook, bringing up enough slack where you can wrap that tag line around the main line 5 times, down through the hole above the eye of the hook, and back to the hole you just created, and pulling it tight. That improved clinch knot is the one that works best for me, because my two favorite are really going to be the improved clinch knot and the Palomar. You start messing with some of these smaller hooks, number 10s, 12s, 14s, on up to the 24s, down to the 24s. The eyes of those hooks are so small that getting 2 pieces of line, or the line go through there twice, it's going to be near impossible. So the improved clinch knot's a good, tight, secure knot that works well on that. Once again, you can find those knots and the illustrations how to tie them at animatedknots.com, as well as you can find the improved clinch knot on our website, agfc.com, at the Virtual Nature Center. A website to look at if you're looking to go trout fishing in any of our tailwaters. Southwest Power Administration operates the dams for the Corps of Engineers for hydroelectric generation. That website to find the generation schedules, which means how much they're going to release at a certain time, is swpa.gov/generation schedules. When it comes into that page, it'll show you the days of the week. And when you click on that day, it'll show you a chart that's got the different dams, the different lakes, all throughout this portion of the United States, abbreviated at the top. You can find the tailwaters you're looking to fish, and it'll give you a time that they're going to open up, how much they're going to generate at that time, and whether it's going, how much they're going to put through. For instance, my favorite spot is there on a little red to go fishing. If it shows down below there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 1600 hours, that they're going to be having 80 come through, that means they're running both units pretty much full. 48 means 1 unit pretty much full. And it means that water's going to be rising, which is another safety issue I want to talk to you about. When you're fishing the tailwaters here in the state of Arkansas, if you're fishing close enough to the dam, you'll have a warning before that water starts rising. And that's going to be the horns going off. Large air horns sounding. That means they're fixing to open up and start generating and pushing water through. If they're generating and plan on doing a full generation with both units, say at Greer's Ferry, once you hear that horn, we have clocked it before, and 16 minutes later, the walkway we took down was missing 3 steps underwater. We're talking distance traveled, that's about 100 yards from the edge where the water was when we started fishing. Water comes up quick, it comes up swift. Don't get stuck out there. You hear the horn, start working your way back up out of the river. If you're not fishing to where you can hear the horns, use a visual aid. Take a separate pack or something, or maybe your lunchbox, and set it over there within about 6 to 12 inches from the edge of the water. Watch over close. When you see the water start encroaching upon that extra pack or that object you set over there, it's time to start coming out. That means the water's coming up. Do not try picking out a rock or a log or a stick sitting up alongside the bank, because once you get interested in fishing and concentrating on catching these fish, all those rocks, all those logs, all those sticks are going to start looking the same when you look back over the check. So be safe. That's the big key. So, time for us to roll into our question and answers. If you have questions for us, be sure to put it in your chat while we're waiting on the first questions to come through. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that in order to fish here in Arkansas, you need to purchase an Arkansas fishing license. If you're 16 years of age or older, you can do that on our website, agfc.com. You will also need a trout permit if you plan on fishing for trout. You can find those at the same website, agfc.com. A lot of these skills that we discussed today and tonight on this seminar, you can find it in our virtual nature center. Once you get to agfc.com, look up to the right there on the header, and you'll find for Virtual Nature Center, and you can go through and get the skills there, the outdoor skills there. First question?
What's your favorite rod and reel? You said it was about $300 to $400.
Yes, my favorite is this. I love using this Fenwick Eagle rod with a Pfluger Medalist reel. They just work smooth enough for me, and I can adjust the drag just right whenever I'm out fishing.
And what's your go-to fly in the little red, like the woolly booger? Or?
My go-to fly is almost always going to be a woolly bugger. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of it up a little bit when I'm tying my flies, depending upon the season. And early in the season, the insects, the bait fish might be a little bit lighter color, and as you're working on into summertime, they start to darken up.
Okay, we have some people new to the area. They would like to know where they can fish from the shore easily on the White River near Beaver.
Near Beaver. That one I'm not sure about as far as, and I do know below the dam there on Beaver Lake, there is some shoreline access there. You can also go to our website, agfc.com, and look for places to fish and find areas up through there that way.
What are the pros and cons of bobber fishing?
Pros and cons of bobber fishing. If you're doing it with a fly rod, number one, these strike indicators, think about it, a lot of times you're fly fishing in clear water. If you can see it, so can the fish. And if something looks unnatural to them, it might put them off the bait. If I'm fishing in a more turbid or stained water, say I'm bluegill fishing or crappie fishing with a fly rod, a strike indicator doesn't affect it so much. Pros are going to be you don't have to watch for that fly line to dart using a strike indicator. Cons, it's a little added weight in the middle of your line, so it may take a little getting used to before casting out. Any more questions?
Can you talk about restricted equipment areas such as barbless hooks? Where can you crimp barbs, or must they be truly barbless? And do lures with treble hooks count as a multi-hook?
Well, let's go to the end of that one. Start with yes. Treble hooks do count as multi-hooking points. When they say a single barbless hook, they're referring to a single fish hook with a single point on it. Trophy areas. We do have trophy areas on a lot of our tributaries, our tailwater areas, and these trophy areas are designed to use artificial baits only, not scented, not grocery baits, not live baits, but artificial baits. Single hooking point on them. They do need to be barbless. Now, you can purchase barbless baits like that to use, or you can take and crimp down the barb on it. And depending upon the wildlife officer, someone will walk up and look and see where you crimped it down and understand that you're trying and go ahead. Others, they may do a cloth test, a little cotton patch there on their little tail of their shirt and try to see if it'll snag on it, determine whether it's truly barbless or not. Those fish in that area do need to be caught and released immediately.
How do you know when to use a strike indicator?
Personal preference. I do not use a strike indicator. That's why you can see both packages I picked up have never been opened. I rely on using my fly line and watching my fly line, the end of it. If I see it dart suddenly, I know I've got a strike on it.
Any places in Arkansas where you cannot wear the felt sole boot?
In Arkansas, I do not think so. Now, there are some states where it is outlawed, but I believe here in Arkansas, you can wear the felt sole boot just about anywhere.
What size rod and leader work best in Arkansas?
If you're fly fishing, a 9-foot rod is a great rod to utilize, and most leaders you can get in with a 9-foot, about the length of the rod itself. It's going to be a good leader to use. If you want a little bit added on to that 9 foot, if you're fishing really clear water, the fish are timid about striking, you can actually go ahead and tie on some tippet line at the end of that as well. Now, as far as what kind of leader I would use, I prefer using a fluorocarbon leader, and the reason being is, or fluorocarbon tippet, and the reason behind that is that a lot of your monofilaments, all your monofilaments is nothing more than extruded nylon or plastic. And when the sunlight hits it just right, it's gonna put off a halo effect. You're gonna see a little bit of a prism, the fish will see a little bit of a prism and be able to pick out that monofilament line, especially in these clear waters. The fluorocarbon allows the light to pass through, makes it virtually indetectable.
I don't have any more right now.
No more questions right now? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure there's somebody else wants to know something. No more questions? Going once? Going twice? All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Tackle bag versus a vest.
tackle bag versus a vest. I will carry a tackle bag down to the edge of the water and then have a smaller bag that I can strap to me, or a fly vest where I can keep as little equipment off me as possible. But if I do want to go to the added fly boxes, change out fly boxes, or go for some more flies, that bag is down there close to me. If I'm just getting out of my truck and going straight off the body of water, I won't carry a tackle bag. It'll be the vest, or it'll be the small strap to you pack.
How do we get more info on what colors to use for different seasons?
Go to your local fly shops. Be for one, talk to the fly fishermen out there in the area. Go to your local fly shops. Ozark Angler does real good about helping out. With picking out different colors and such. There's Ozark Angler in Little Rock over off Chenal, if I'm not mistaken, as well as one up there in Heber Springs. They're along Little Red. Talk to them at Bass Pro, talk to them at Academy, the ones who work in the fly fishing section, or email us, askagfc.com.
I got one. Where can you go to purchase fly tying equipment if they want to start learning how to tie their own flies?
Just about, for fly tying equipment, if you want to start tying your own flies, you can pick up those fly tying kits online, or you can pick them up at any of our bigger box stores as well. The one I promote personally is a Wapsie fly tying kit. Wapsie is a company located up in Mountain Home, Arkansas. They're a great company to work with. You can purchase extra materials through there, beginners kits, all types of devices, tools and such to go with it. So they're a great partner for the game of fish. Well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we're approaching the end. Thank you for bearing with us. I hope y'all had fun. I hope everybody gets out there.
Got another one.
Got
Got
another
one
one.
more come through?
Do you start with tippet added to pre-made leader, or do you add tippet after the leader gets shorter?
I add tippet after the leader gets shorter most of the time. If I'm needing a little extra length to keep them from seeing the larger end of that leader, because the fish are a little bit timid, I'll add it to the tapered end. Like I was saying, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you learned something. I hope you took up an interest in fly fishing. You go out and you get you some equipment, borrow some equipment, whatever it takes. Get out there and join us out there on the Little Red River. Next month's topic is going to be camp cooking. I hope y'all can join us then. Keep an eye out. We'll set up, it'll be the same way. It'll be a Zoom registration for it. And it'll be on November 13th, 10th. I'm sorry, 10th. Third Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I think
Not
that's
not next month, it's second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday because of deer season. Second, because of deer season. I don't know why I forgot deer season. I'm still mad at the deer myself. I love donuts. But join us next month, November 10th, for camp cooking. Get out there and do a little bit of fly fishing and have yourself some fun.